Welcome to the Illuminate Universe podcast, The Cast. Get it? The Cast? My name is Alina, and I'm the founder of Illuminate, where we mentor job seekers and help employers to fast-track their business goals. I interview a celebrity cast of incredible individuals who have truly inspiring careers. We're talking about their work journey, the process of taking the leap to create a life and career they love, and what happens when they push aside their fears and doubts to unleash their fullest potential. Today, we speak with Laveen Jose, who is currently a talent consultant at Grant Thornton, one of the world's leading professional services firms. Laveen shares his best tips and hacks to help you ace the interview process, create a personal brand that sells, and leave an impression that matters. Hi, Laveen. Thank you so much for coming onto our podcast today. It's been such an honor to be working with you in the past, I want to say 3 years almost, and we're so excited about the future. So today, my first question for you is, Laveen, tell us about your story. Let's start from the very beginning. How did your post-secondary experience lead you to where you are today?
Awesome, Lena. And as always, it's so nice to work with you. It's been 2.5 years. I can't believe it flew by so quickly. And it's always a great pleasure to either work with you. And to answer your question, post-secondary, that's really dating me right now. This is back in 2015. So I graduated with a degree in marketing. And truth be told, when I started my experience at university, I loved marketing and I loved people. I think that's the core of what started my journey in recruitment. And while being at university, while meeting people, I stumbled into the world of student recruitment. One of the biggest passions that I found while being at university is kind of nurturing the growth while being on campus. So I was super involved with like clubs and groups, and slowly but surely it led me into campus events, working with campus students, and I really found my passion through being really involved at campus. And now I work in student recruitment and I love what I do.
I love it. And Laveen, I can tell that you love what you do because you have so much positive energy and this empathetic leadership presence. Whenever I'm interacting with you, I feel included in your presence, and I also feel super motivated from your positive energy.
As we all know, the job market is constantly changing and evolving. And in fact, in today's job market, some of the most in-demand jobs did not even exist 10 or 5 years ago. So what are some of the main traits and skills an individual should develop to succeed in this fast-changing labor market?
Thank you so much, Emily, for the question. It was so well worded, by the way, and super on trend with what's a topic at GT right now. So I'll put it as simply as I can. Some of the things that have not changed since I was at university to now is definitely soft skills. Being able to work with teams, being able to be empathetic, being able to always continuously having the attribute to continuously learn and grow are things that I genuinely feel, and the team here at Grant Thornton definitely can really agree with me, are the soft skills that you need to be successful in the workforce. Technical knowledge can change from now and then with the introduction of AI and softwares and so many different things that are changing in the workforce. But one thing that will transcend time, I truly believe, will be the humane aspect of being human, and that are soft skills. So yeah, soft skills are a big thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that as a student myself. I think your skills like communication and teamwork are needed for every job out there.
Absolutely. Definitely my advice is, go home and definitely look at the mirror and find ways in which you can really put your best foot forward. Like when you meet someone at a conference, the first thing is to be brave enough to put yourself out there in situations that might not feel as comfortable. As bad as it sounds, I promise you it's good for you in the long run.
Absolutely. And I echo the same sentiments. I think communication is probably one of the most important skills that individuals should develop, no matter where they are in life and what they do in life. And so this leads me into my third question, Laveen. Landing a job today is becoming more competitive than ever.
especially in this volatile job market that we're in. What are some tips you can give in terms of crafting a standout cover letter and resume?
That's awesome. What a question. I can definitely start by saying that don't hold back in a resume and a cover letter. And by that, I mean, when I see many resumes in my current role, one thing that I noticed is that a lot of the applicants don't include all of the experience. So for example, if they're applying for a new grad role in accounting, they feel like they have to only put the experience that's relevant to accounting. They won't put the fact that they work at a retail job at Rogers, for example, or they won't put down that they are a volunteer and they're local in the community because they feel like if it's not directly related to the accounting role, then it's not relevant. My advice is anything that you do outside of school or work is super relevant. It speaks to your brand, it speaks to your character, which is 90% of the time is what we look for at GT. So my big advice is don't hold back. Be as honest and transparent as you can on your resume. And the last thing I want to say is try and cater the cover letter to the company that you are applying for. That speaks volumes of your research, your passion in joining the company. And the best way I would do is just to go on our homepage, look up what are the most important values that we stand by, and cater your resume to the company that you are applying for.
I actually have a follow-up question for you. I'm wondering, what was the most unique and interesting thing that you've seen on a resume or cover letter? It could be something totally random as well.
Absolutely. It's a great. So we had a few candidates that actually. So I had a coffee chat with them, or in some cases, I met them at a conference. And one thing that really stood out to me is that on the cover letter, they were super personal and adding the fact that they met me at a conference, and they even remembered the topic that we talked about. So they were super intuitive, they were extremely smart, and we had a great conversation about Malaysia, which is where I'm from, and they were super personal, and I thought that really stood out because it's all about making strong connections, and they really took advantage of that in the cover letter, and I was like super impressed. I'm just like, wow, even I forgot that. But so that was super impressive.
Well, I think it's so strategic. I think it's so smart. I would call this name dropping, almost strategic names dropping in your cover letter. When you mention someone on the recruitment team in your cover letter, it might not be the person who you actually talk to reading the cover letter, but if they see a name that they recognize, they might talk to their colleague and say, hey, do you remember meeting John or Sandy at the event? He or she mentioned you in the cover letter. And that just kind of kicks off a better impression.
It definitely did, Alina, definitely. I mean, being able to tie in something personal, or even being able to strike up a connection at some point with the company, and having the bravery to add it on a cover letter. Sometimes, I'll be honest, I mean, if I had written a cover letter 6-7 years ago, I don't think I would have mentioned that in a cover letter because I would have been playing it safe and just playing it by the book. And by that I mean just being just saying what's my values, why I like about the company, but bringing in that personal flavor in a cover letter was super impressive. And I kudos to the people that did that, because I know that I wouldn't have done it.
That's funny. It actually reminds me, the most creative cover letter. I'm not very creative. I try to be creative and it only gets so far. But one of the companies or organizations that I applied for, it was an incubator, entrepreneurship incubator, and it was called Propel. So then I started off the cover letter with, Dear Michelle, I hope this propels your way well.
I love that. And by the way, you're being super humble. I know that you are super creative, but but I'm not surprised by you saying that.
It's just a random sidetrack. I thought that was really funny. I have a follow-up question in terms of this topic. How can an individual, especially one just starting out their career, leverage LinkedIn and networking to build strong connections and a personal brand?
I love that question. LinkedIn is a fantastic platform just to get out of the bat, I think it's such a great way for you to build your brand. And you got to make LinkedIn work for you. And how I would start off is starting with the basics. For anyone out there who are not on LinkedIn, or maybe you are on LinkedIn, making sure that the basics are done right. So, for example, having a photo that is high resolution, or not cropping a photo of you and like 4 or 5 friends, maybe. It's a small things like that. And you know what? You are not alone if you're doing that. Like a lot of people do that. And it's something that you can take away and start to fix. So like the basic structures of what you add on LinkedIn, your background image, making sure that the contrast favors or complements your photo, which is not cropped, right? And just making sure that the content that you have on LinkedIn resembles what you're passionate about. So making sure that if you're involved in your local community, making sure that adding the volunteer roles that you have done and making sure that it's all added on your bio. And one big tip that I would say is that if you are looking for a co-op or looking for a job, leverage the open to work function on LinkedIn. That really helps recruiters understand where you are and what you're looking for. And it really helps us, honestly, because I would go as far to say that LinkedIn is your new resume. A lot of times when it's very close between a few new candidates for a role, I do look at LinkedIn, and sometimes that can be a huge differentiator, just because when I go on your LinkedIn, I get to see how involved you are with your own, like, in a community at university, for example. So really and truly, I can't emphasize enough the importance of LinkedIn and making sure that you post regularly. Don't be scared. Don't hold back. Just the same way I said, don't hold back on your resume. Don't hold back on LinkedIn. Like, keep on posting as long as you're not using bad language. And by that, I mean not swearing. Just be super passionate, right? Post about a conference that you went to. What do you learn from it? Connect with individuals from the accounting profession if that's what you want to do. So leveraging LinkedIn and making it work for you, I think is one of the smartest strategic things that you can do right now, especially if you're in university.
And sometimes I find also tagging the company that you're recruiting for, or even the individual that you met at the conference, the recruiter. And perhaps it could be a picture of you at the recruitment event, smiling and representing yourself really well. And then you can say, perhaps, wow, I had such a great time at this GT networking event, and it was such an honor to meet Laveen. And I could potentially tag you. And I think that would definitely draw your attention.
Definitely, no, definitely, absolutely. I mean, that again speaks to the personal connection. And these are the small things, like you mentioned, that can really set you apart. And yeah, I feel like once you build and get the basics right on LinkedIn, posting and leveraging it and tagging companies, like you mentioned, is phenomenal. You know what? That just reminds me, a few days ago, I took a screenshot of my LinkedIn profile back in 2014. This is like some time back. And there was a time where LinkedIn was legitimately square. So now it's circular in terms of your photo and whatnot. It's a bit more user friendly and design friendly, I would say. Back then, it was very blocky. So it's never too early to get on LinkedIn. So if you're in high school, it's not too early. I highly recommend you getting on LinkedIn as soon as possible, getting comfortable navigating the tools on LinkedIn, and start the basics and just keep on being super engaged with the platform.
Next, I want to touch on another crucial part of the recruitment process, which is the interview. So the interview is also a place where a lot of applicants make avoidable mistakes. So what are some tips you have so that an applicant can ace the interview and build an impression?
Absolutely. It's a great question. I would say this: when you go onto a live virtual interview, which is the case at GT, you definitely want to be able to put your best foot forward. And also, it's a live interview. So making sure your background is appropriate, making sure your mic works, the small things, again, basics really, really do set you apart sometimes. So making sure your mic, your camera, your background, making sure your family members in your household knows that you're on a job interview. Sometimes they can just walk in and completely get you off your game. So just making sure that everyone in your household knows that you're at a job interview. So once you get the basics right, the next thing I want to say is dive in deep in terms of being genuine and being who you are. Definitely, when you're at the final stage of the interview process, we know that you're competent in getting the job done. At that point, it's about making sure that you have the soft skills, making sure that you have teamwork mindset to be successful at the company. So it's more of a behavioral fit than it is a competency fit. So be confident. The fact that you've made it to the final interview means that you've gone through a few stages, which a lot of people don't get through. So be confident, because you being there is already a huge deal, and showcasing your best version in terms of soft skills is going to put you right up there. So this is like tying in with the fact that, once you value what you have to offer to a company, everyone buys into that value. So making sure that you value yourself and you have so much to value, by the way, and being confident and communicating that to the interviewers will really set you apart.
I'm just curious, what was the funniest background that you've seen in an actual interview?
Okay. Funniest. The funniest background I would say is a washroom. Just gonna put it out there. We were not sure we were not sure and questioning it at first, but it was legitimately a washroom. And listen, like it, I just want to like respect everyone's space and boundaries, but maybe planning ahead. If space is limited, I think there's the opportunity for you to make sure that you book a room in an office space, maybe, or maybe at a library. There's so many different avenues that you can do outside of your house as well. So being prepared and planning ahead will be really helpful. But definitely to your question, the washroom stall. But to take it a step further, maybe not wear sunglasses in a digital interview, or definitely not a job interview. So just gonna put it out there, just don't wear sunglasses unless of course it's a medical issue. We can definitely work together. But if it's just for fashion, don't wear sunglasses job interview.
That's so funny. Were they actually wearing the sunglasses like this, or how did I hear?
It was just a regular with like a diamond shaped sunglasses. So yeah, no, we were a bit shocked. So, we definitely dived in deep. We want to be as empathetic as possible in the process, making sure that, if it's a medical situation, absolutely, we want to make sure that we want you to comply and make sure that you feel comfortable. But if it's not medical, I'm sorry, don't wear sunglasses in a job interview.
Thank you so much for sharing. We love to have our podcast to be a mixture of professional and also personal, just to get our audience engaged. So thank you so much for sharing. This is very interesting, knowledgeable, and interesting. So this leads me to my last question for you, Laveen. And this one's a professional question. We're going back and forth here. Now, given the interesting times we're in, what is one piece of advice you would offer to someone striving to obtain their dream job?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm sad it's the final one, but dream job. Okay, so that is a lot of pressure, I find sometimes. I feel that setting yourself up for a dream job sometimes might not be the best approach, because it's setting yourself up for expectations that might be a bit beyond what the world has to offer. And hang in with me on that note. In everything in life, there's ups and downs. There are challenges, and then there are days that are just going to be fantastic. There are ups and downs. So when we say dream job, then then every day is an up. There's no such thing as a down day. Every job has its amazing rewards. And this is why I always say finding your passion is super important, because it'll power you through the days that sometimes are not fun. I feel like understanding your passions is really important and key in knowing what is the right future for you. And it's ever changing. Don't feel like if you want to become a doctor, for example, at university, and things change in the third and fourth year, allow yourself to explore what are those changes and allow yourself to explore those avenues. I think being open-minded into what's out there is super crucial as an attribute to have, especially in our ever-changing world that we live in right now. What's relevant now may not be tomorrow. So being adaptable to changes and allowing yourself to have a different passion next year is completely fine, or building on what you're passionate about at the moment. So I know I'm going off in a few different directions here, but to simplify it, the very first step is understanding what's your passion, being open to change and adapting to what you are passionate about. And number three is a dream job might be something that might set you up for not success. And by that I mean expectations are that even if you have your quote unquote dream job, there are days that are super rewarding and there's some days where it's super challenging. So expectations are super important, but I really hope everyone finds what they love, because once you find what you love, boy oh boy, it will not feel like work, because it's just what you love doing day in, day out.
And how do you find what you love?
Great. Yes, absolutely. So the only way you can find out, from my experience and from a lot of people that I really do admire, is to get yourself out there and meet people and network, and exposing yourself to as many opportunities to set you up to learn more about yourself. Having a conversation with a family member, having a conversation with the experts in the industry, by attending network conferences, going to university, meeting professors, meeting fellow colleagues at university. Like, these conversations really spark ideas. And once an idea is sparked, that's when you'll find out if you're super passionate about that topic, and then it would just feel natural. It would feel like, yes, I want to learn more about this topic. I want to find out who are the experts in this industry, because I'm eager to wanting to learn more about that. And then you're in this black hole of passion. Nothing can stop you, because you're super eager to wanting to learn more about this specific topic, or idea. So that's why being in person sometimes is super crucial, because it's never about the meetings that sometimes give the best idea. It's the walk in between the meetings at university. It's the walk in between office rooms at a workplace. It's the walk between your campus class to your dorms. It's that time in between sometimes that can spark an idea, let it be an entrepreneurial or an idea of a career. It could be anything that can really spark your passion and your interest. So that's why I'm a huge supporter of being in person sometimes, just because being in person is just, you can't plan for what is going to happen.
Super exciting. And one thing I was thinking about yesterday at 3 a.m. in the morning, I was being all philosophical at 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. And I was thinking, everything has an end. Everything has a beginning and an end. There's only one, or actually two things that, in my opinion, doesn't have an end. The first thing is the pursuit of learning, the pursuit of knowledge and wisdom. And the second thing is our relationship with the most important thing in our life. And for my case, it would be religion. It would be, some people call it the universe, others call it God. And so when I think about those two things being the eternal things in my life, especially learning, and when you combine that, when your biggest motivation is to learn, to acquire knowledge, to be curious about the world, I think it really echoes what you mentioned about passion being sustainable. Because sometimes people think passion is 100% happy-go-lucky, unicorn la la land. But in reality, like everything in life, there's ups and downs, like you mentioned. And sometimes for passion, it needs to be sustainable as well. Some days you're going to feel very passionate about your passion. Other days you're going to feel very down about your passion. But regardless, I think one of the biggest signs of knowing whether this is your passion is, despite the ups and downs, you find yourself naturally keep on going.
Absolutely. I can't say it better or agree more. I mean, what sane person would do something that they don't like? Right? And really thrive in it. That's the I think it's one of the secrets of successful people in the world is the ability to find their passion. And the ones that unfortunately don't are the ones that don't find a reason to go back to work the next day, or find a reason to challenge someone with a cooler idea or a different way of thinking. So definitely the fuel would be passion, but the journey in finding it, I think that's what's fascinating. And that's what is amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Laveen, for sharing your wisdom today. It's been such an honor to interview you today.